direct your attention to ArizonaSports.com. You can, if you are inclined, can donate to the National Multiple Sclerosis Society. That Bonneville has set up a fund there, the John Clayton Memorial Fund, to remember NFL insider John Clayton, who was on these airwaves a lot, obviously, and certainly with Bonneville up in Seattle, and even Denver, I believe. I mean, John Clayton was everywhere.
He was everywhere. He was a national figure. There's no doubt about it. And yet at the same time, I feel like I've always known John Clayton, and so much of that was because of my older brother, Craig. And Craig, are you there right now, bro?
Yeah, I am here, brother.
Hey, man, how you doing? It's a tough thing to talk about, bro, and I appreciate you coming on here. But John Clayton actually got his start in Pittsburgh, did he not?
Oh, yeah. He's from salt of the earth, God's country, Braddock. I mean, it's a tough, rugged people that come from Braddock, let me tell you. You know,
so
and
when
I first – go ahead.
No. So when you think of John Clayton, bro, what do you think of?
You know, there's a lot of things because there were several faces that emerged throughout the career of John Clayton. All of them prefaced with courtesy, kindness, and professionalism. Mm-hmm. He was an excellent dude. You know, he was very young in the game when I first met him. He's a few years older than me. And I remember the little repartee, I think it was, we had, I believe it was around my rookie year. And we were talking about final cuts and things of that nature. And he asked me, "What are you going to do on the final cuts day?" And I said, and I believe this was John, if I'm recollecting correctly. But anyhow, I thought it was John. And I said, "Well, I'm going to go hide under an assumed name at a hotel nearby. They'll never catch me." And he looked at me with astonishment, like he said, "They'll find you eventually." I said, I'm joking, John. And you know what? He burst out in laughter, and ever since that moment, we had always a continuous give and take, little fun stuff. He was so knowledgeable, and he was just a pro's pro.
You know what I remember so much, too, is how he took care of Pat, his wife. And that, to me, Craig, I mean, honestly, he used to talk about her all the time, and he came out a couple of times here to Phoenix, of course. He would come out, and this is back when I actually had the Wolfley's restaurant here, and John Clayton would come over, and, you know, we'd get the show together, and we'd talk to him. It was just great, and so much of the time, man, to actually meet Pat and see Pat and, of course, fighting muscular dystrophy, how difficult that was for her. And John was her caretaker, man. John was her daily caretaker, and I remember how much he doted over her and loved on her. And that's something I'll never forget about John. You typically don't think of the professor in those circumstances and in those ways, but that's who he was, wasn't it?
No doubt about it. He had a huge heart. I didn't really understand at first because, you know, he was well respected in the area, and then went on to national acclaim. And you know, I always love the ESPN commercials where, you know, he's got you know, the professor look and he does his bit, and then the TV bit is over and he rips it off. He's got a Slayer T-shirt on, and you know, he's got a wig and everything, and he's going, "Ma, I'm done." You know?
Where's the meatloaf?
I mean, it was
done with my segment.
180 degrees. It was fabulous, and I just loved it because you knew that John was completely the opposite. But for him to put himself out like that showed that great sense of humor, along with that huge, unbelievable heart that he had. And it was expressed through his caretaking of his wife, number one. And then he really cared about the guys and the state of the players. And, you know, he was an excellent reporter.
Craig, I was just telling Ron last segment, too. I mean, as somebody that grew up just, following sports, John Clayton's voice was synonymous with football all week leading up to Sundays. I mean, as a player, it sounds like you guys did have a sense of just how much of a connection he was between what was going on the field and the fans.
Well, you know, the beautiful thing about it, Luke, and, you know, I appreciated John because some guys, when they have not played the game, they tend to act in a different way. And some guys are just like, I didn't play the game. I report the game. And I was so appreciative because he was one of those guys that would take into what was said on the field. He would, relay it to the average reader. He would take the average player, make it, available to the fans sitting on the sideline. He was just one of these guys that communicated in such a way that he brought the fan onto the field and the player to the fan. And it was just something that you really, I found remarkable. And he had a sense of humility about himself that I found very becoming. And I always thought highly of him. And it was funny because every time, even though he was in Seattle, he'd come in and, we'd see him and it was always, "Hey, how you doing, brother?" And then he of course would ask about Ronnie and Dale. And, it was just always that sort of little memory trip down memory lane with him. And he was very, very, very kind.
Yes, I'm totally going to miss him. I know you will as well.
Yeah.
And, man, tell your family how much I love them, okay? And
they already know that, but they send all their love out to Uncle Ronnie, too,
That's right. And I know you're coming out, Lord willing, of course, at the end of May. Thank you, brother. I appreciate your time. Say hello to everybody, and God bless you.
Absolutely, bro. I will talk to you guys later.
Okay, thank you, Craig.
Thanks, Craig.
John Clayton was a guy that never talked about himself as well. You want to talk about a guy that was an example to others and how to be? It was never about John Clayton. It was always about everybody else. It's right to the end, even with Pat, his wife. It was always about somebody else with John Clayton, and I'll remember his humility because he was he was a big-time figure nationally, and yet at the same time, he never forgot who he was or where he came from. He was humble to the end.
Yeah, he's got to be one of the bigger reporter names, like one of the first names to be that big nationally. Again, if you want to donate to the John Clayton Memorial Fund, you can find, there's a story on ArizonaSports.com that has the link right there.